Morning. Welcome to weekend edition of Good Morning Anambra this Friday. How are you? Sure you had a good night rest and getting set to enjoy your weekend. Welcome. My name is Ijoma and it'll be nice with me.
Yeah, my name is Obin. We hope you are going to have a great weekend. This weekend, of course, this is the discussion segment of the Good Morning Anambra. Fortunately, we were not able to bring you the first review.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, this morning in our discussion segment, we have this topic coming, fishery, a tool for job creation and economic growth in Anambra State. And then who has joined us to talk about this? It's no other person other than the fish master in Anambra State, Emeka Ilogalo. Emeka Ilogalo is the MD CEO, Anambra State Fisheries and Aquaculture Business Development Agency, FABDA. Have you heard that name before? You're going to hear it in detail today. Yes, Obina.
Of course, we'll be talking about the topic fishery tool for job creation and economic growth in Anambra State. Of course, where there are talks of unavailable jobs not being available, jobs not being able to cater for the growing youth. We'll be talking about how fishery can actually help curb and ameliorate job loss. All right, with us this morning, Emeka Ilogalo, of course, the MD CEO. He'll be sharing with us how best to go about it. So why is fishery so important? Because many people hear that and feel like, oh, it's something that people shouldn't worry themselves over. So why is it so important to know something about it?
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers. Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, so fish is important because it is the most important and the best protein source for human food. And now we're talking about fishery being a tool for economic development and emancipation. So you see in Anambra State, we have the Fisheries and Aquaculture Business Development Agency, and the government of Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo, CFR, has given a strong impetus since he came on board for the things we have been doing. Now, the fisheries and aquaculture sector bears huge potential for economic emancipation. In Anambra State, we have a peculiar approach to the fisheries and aquaculture economic development, different from not like the conventional things we are doing at the national level. Now, we segmented the value chain of fisheries and aquaculture into 16, and each of these segments represents an entry point for business. So, an examples of these segments are the table fish production business, the fingerling production or seed fish production business, and then the broodstock production business. These three entail farming of fish. Before now, people call it fish farming, and in a fish farm, you have these three distinct activities operating as one, and they keep sabotaging the economic development and growth of the farm. So in Anambra State, we saw this challenge and we already changed it already. So we are developing economically in these lines. So we've, distinguished each of these activities so that each of them anyone can invest in fish through table fish production business, through seed fish or fingerling production business, through broodstock development or production business, through feed manufacturing, through feed marketing, through equipment fabrication, through consulting, teaching people about all this, business consulting and all that. So what it means is each of these follow a guideline, and that guideline is the business concept. A business concept comprises of 4 key pillars: the product or service, the customer that patronizes the product or service, the value that the producer or the offerer of this product or service is bringing to the table for the customer to exchange the money with. And then the distribution channel. Distribution channel has to do with whether you take it into the customer or customer is coming to your place, or you're going to market and both of you meet there. So basically, we've arranged our economic development and orientation in Anambra State for fisheries and aquaculture in these lines.
Now, let's look at the, you just talked about, let's say, the arms, various branches of various sectors.
Segments.
Segment and sectors.
The value chain.
The value. You talked about the different, so can you elaborate on them?
Okay, good. What we have done has been to unbundle the activities involved in the fishery. Unbundling it means making way for real practical businesses to happen with fisheries and aquaculture. You know, if you're going to do business, you start with capital. And that capital is meant to be grown.
We need to speak up, let's hear you.
Okay, so the capital is meant to be grown. So business is about making profit and maximizing profit. So when you start a business, you are meant to start the business at a certain scale and continue to grow. What has been happening in what has been is generally known in the country as fish farming has not been really in that line. So in Anambra State, our peculiar niche is that we have segmented the value chain so that anyone coming in can take a line and follow, while the agency is maintaining the linkages and the support that the various segments need, because they are all interlinked. For example, producing table fish requires seed fish that you stock. So it's like farming, right? You know, like seed yam or anything, you stock. So you stock this fish, now you have to feed the fish, so you need feed. Now, but you don't have to be the one producing your fish. That's the stock as the seed fish. You shouldn't be the one producing your feed as well. So if you focus on growing out the table fish as business, now the supplier or the producer of the seed fish.
Table fish?
Table fish is the fish that you eat on the table, basically the one you call point and kill,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yeah, that's the grown one.
Yes, the grown one.
Matured enough to
Yes, for consumption.
Yeah.
Yes, you know, so that's how it is. So you now see that these other businesses, the agency now steps in to harmonize the linkages so that business,
What's agency?
the Fisheries and Aquaculture Business Development Agency
In Anambra State.
in Anambra State. So that's our mandate, basically. You know, the role of government is to provide enabling environment. Now we have helped to unbundle this and keep them on track, keep them oriented on their paths. Now, we now need to do the backup support, which is the enabling. So now that's where regulation comes in. So you come back to look at what is the mandate of Fisheries and Aquaculture Business Development Agency in Anambra State. Our mandate is to reposition the fisheries and aquaculture economy for effective and efficient governance, corporate governance, regulation, productivity, and growth. So you see, our role is very clear. We are not meant to start fish farms or to go into the practical thing. We are playing this role, but we are providing direction, providing technical direction, technical support, regulation, orientation, so that anyone can step in and prosper.
How effective has this provision been? This agency has been around. I think it has succeeded about 3 governments now.
2.
Is it only 2?
Yes.
So it
quite
started with one is 8 years, and then this one is has rounded up 4 years, so 12 years. It's not a small deal.
No, it's not up to 6 years.
So it started
Just
in the
barely
second
6 years,
tenure
yeah.
of Obiano?
Yes.
Okay, whichever way. You have to let us know how effective this agency has been in the promotion, production, and what is the help or whatever you have given to the fishers or the fish farmers Because as we talk now, you can't get fish to eat here. I had to buy fish from Akwa Ibom last week. That's where they were build fish for me, because you won't be able to buy fish here because of high cost. So of what effect has it been? Has it gotten down to our table that whatever we are doing in this agency has reflected in our pot of soup?
Okay, it's getting to the pot of soup, but it's on course. We've recorded milestones, and let's note, it's a process, because like I mentioned, other parts of Nigeria are not doing what you're doing at the moment.
But
So
they
we are the
produce
pioneers.
more fish than we do.
Okay, now remember we are discussing about economy, right? So you see, the government at the federal level, even at the state level, a government comes and decides to do some form of intervention. Now, these interventions need to be guided. If you notice, I mentioned that we have a structure. At the national level, there is no such structure in Anambra State for fisheries and aquaculture. I just have to limit myself to that. Now, if you're going to do intervention, you need to think about the sustainability. So once in a while, there is an intervention, World Bank, wherever, and then there is that fish, and that period, that season, you buy fish from that zone. And after that, what happens? If you go to the west, the fish that we get, it moves from place to place. It is not the place we used to get fish in 2013 that the fish comes from in 2025.
But you will get fish. That is the bottom line. How do we get enough fish to eat?
Now, okay, let's not deviate from our core discussion on conversation.
I know, it's part of it. All these are geared towards provision of fish.
Yes, good. It's going to happen if you understand the trajectory, if you can see the trajectory, we're going there. For example, in Anambra State, we've been able to map our population and set our targets.
What are the targets?
In Anambra, we have targeted to produce 51 million kg per annum of table fish to be self-sufficient. So we are in that journey. And in achieving that journey, you see, fortunately, the present government, the solution government, has come in with some key catalysts to push this, and we are supporting that. The government came in with the manifesto to produce 1,000 youth millionaires per annum. Now, in our supporting that mandate, that promise, we have attracted the ECOWAS to support our training, developing human resources to contribute in achieving our 51 million kg per annum. So we've already trained 150 youths in Anambra State, sponsored by ECOWAS, to join the army of table fish producers to achieve the state target. ECOWAS is again giving us a mandate to do another 200, making it 350. And if we do well, they are going to continue to support us. That is on the part of human resources, human capital development. So we are contributing to the youth millionaire promise of the government, solution government. On the other hand, the economic implication is that each time you produce, for that 51 million kg of table fish, there is the component of the seed fish. It cannot happen without the economy of the seed fish. There is the economy of the fish feed. And then there is the economy of the off-taking, the resellers, and even the processors. So
where do they resell it? Do they resell it outside Anambra?
No, not yet, because we have to be self-sufficient to be able to be able to do export. So we are building our local production at the moment, and we're on track.
All right, let's look at job security. How far has this investment by the state government into this sector of farming, which is fisheries and all that, how well have they really produced, or rather provided jobs for probably young persons on the Anambra? Because it's the most basic point for this discussion and also the expectation, because once you're creating palliatives or doing some of these things and it's really not of any help to the teeming unemployed youth, then I do not think there's need for it.
That's correct. Thank you very much for that question. Now, like I mentioned to you, that we trained 150 youths has far-reaching implications. It doesn't stop at the 150. At the end of the training, we had evaluation. Some of these youths are available to work in fish projects, fish businesses, fish farms. Some of the youths are starting their own fish businesses, and some of these are already formed into cooperatives. Now, in all this, the one that is employed in another fish business is on one side. Then the ones that start business create more jobs for more youth and more people. So these are parts of the things that are associated with this just one activity, and then as it keeps evolving and growing, we keep having more of this. So at a time, we should be able to come to a stage where we'll be able to be touching the job security concerns.
Can you share with us probably a certain number in terms of, can you quantify the progress you guys have done in terms of providing jobs?
Okay, at the moment, after the training of 150 youths, we led them to create 8 cooperatives. Yes. Now, each of these cooperatives have the potential to do the table fish production business of monthly throughput. Throughput is the monthly harvest and making sales of average of 8 million naira per month. So now, if you convert that, it's running to about between 60 and 80 million naira potential. Now, with this arrangement, we're going to have, as it's growing, we're going to have need for more employees to get involved in this business. And then there's going to be opportunity to scale, to expand. So it's like a core. This is the first time we're doing this, straight impactful training. This is a magnitude of the training. And then we are following with another one. And we are envisaging that it's not only the fund from the ECOWAS that would help us to do this, because already the existing cooperatives are going to have apprentices with the new one. So with that, we expect it to continue to grow into a big community, and then investors can come in and replicate what we're doing. They can have big farms, and then there's human resources that are qualified and proficient to operate with them and work with them.
And then they used to have trained. How were they empowered? Is it through the ECOWAS or Anambra state government, or is there any kind of intervention loan for fishery that is anywhere for them to access?
Okay, the program with ECOWAS was very clear from the beginning. No money to them after the training, because the training is a high-powered training, very impactful, just the technical training. So and it was successful.
It was successful. So how do you expect them to probably start up this? Because the importance of trainings like this is not just about giving them the technical knowledge. Considering the economic situation, most Nigerians are finding it difficult to start up ventures now due to lack of capital or something like that. So for the past 6 years, are you saying trainings are just going on without?
No, not 6 years. I said we just had a training in 2023.
I know, I hear what you're saying.
Yes.
I'm saying for the past 6 years that this what's it called?
The agency.
The agency has been created by the state government. And we now see that there's really been no funding, because basically it's not just about training. There's really been no funding to the young persons to actually start the fishing business.
Good. We have never funded any young person till date.
Wow. Through
the training.
Wow.
We have never got such approval up to date. And apart from that, our agency, like I already laid the foundation, we have a mandate. Our job is to provide enabling environment for fish businesses. So where they don't exist, we help them to create. Now,
how do you help them create?
Just like I mentioned, we have people calling themselves fish farmers, and we see what they do. We invest so much money, And then because you do 4 businesses together, it ties up the money and the money evaporates and you don't see the capital again. So, and that's why I mentioned at the beginning that if you're doing business, if you start with 100,000 naira, it's meant to grow to 200 and to 1 million and to 100 million and so on. But the practice in Nigeria of fish farming is such that somebody starts a fish farming business with 10 million naira. After 3 years, he doesn't have up to 1 million. And yes, why is clear? And it seems like an illusion. There is no business principle. There is a difference between approaching the activity from the home economics mindset and approaching with the business pro concept. That's why there is a business concept. That's why I mentioned business concept means you need to identify the product or service, identify who is buying it, the customer, identify the value you are proposing, identify how you are selling. Then business is on course. Then you do your feasibility and test it. And then once you test it, it's fine. You now plan with what you have on ground. So in the case of fish, for example, at the stage of planning after feasibility, everybody knows that people buy fish. It's feasible. It's a feasible business. But in planning, somebody may be in a swampy area. You see that the most preferred way to do the fish business, they will be using earthen ponds. Somebody will be in an urban place. The most preferred way to do it will be to use mobile tanks, plastic, tarpaulin, fiber tanks, and so on, so that you'll be able to have aesthetics and so many other things and take care of it. But the bottom line is that fish is being produced. And that's part of the things we've done in Anambra State. We put the policy framework. So you can produce fish in any part of the state. And then you use your peculiarities to succeed. And that's what the FABDA is there as government, to make sure that any situation where you need support that you are not able to take care of, the government comes in. In our case, if we notice that our people, the stakeholders in fisheries and aquaculture, need any support, and it's not in our power, we link up with the relevant agency. For example, we have the ASBA, Anambra Small Business Agency.
Part of the stakeholders.
No, Anambra State Small Business Agency is a sister agency. So we can recommend, and we have actually recommended people, by the way. We've been doing that. We recommend them, they give them loan, they give them support.
So you can see that mandate to give money. So you can see that you may have funded a number of
We
businesses.
have, not me. We have supported businesses, but we don't give money directly because it's not our mandate
yes, you have
to give money.
Okay, you just have to recommend to the
Yes,
ASBA.
exactly. And when they notice that the recommendation is coming from us, the competent authority, they give them proper attention.
Okay. Emeka Ilogalo, sorry. Let us bring it down so that anybody that is watching us will understand where we are coming from and where we intend to go in this discussion. Apart from these guys that you have trained, okay, let me just start with them. Can you vouch of any of them that have been able to establish a fish farm? All those people that you have trained.
Now, I want to, at this point, for clarity and for a comprehension of our viewers, it's very important. Many times, when people are expressing themselves or asking questions, they tend to expect some sensational, political presentation or sensational presentation. It's important to understand that we are dealing with business. Business has principles. Politics has a way of doing. Even marketing is also, trying to do so. Now, talking about the ones that are established, I want to address that question so that we understand. What we did was, we couldn't have just trained and abandoned them to leave.
That's what I want to know.
Now,
is there any kind of follow-up? Now you have learned this. Have you been able to establish anything? Let me see your progress. Let me monitor your progress. Let's supervise your progress. That is what your agency is supposed to be doing, not just training. Or what do you say?
Of course, I've already said that. We did.
And that's why I asked. That's why I asked, are there establishment, fish farm that any of them have established? And how far is it going?
I had to put, respond in such a way to align your the question.
Yes,
so
go
that
ahead.
For proper comprehension, like I said. Now, the what we did was, because it is steep, it's a lot of money for an individual to start a fish business. So,
yeah,
and we
you have
cannot
talked
say
about
no.
those of them forming
I'm
cooperatives to do
coming,
that.
I'm providing
Yes.
information now. If
That's
you
what I
give me
want
a
to
chance
find
do
out.
that.
Yes.
Now, what we did was, we have established fish farms that have facilities, that have ponds. So we had to negotiate with them so that they will not need to look for money to establish infrastructure. They only need money for working capital.
What do you mean by working capital?
Working capital,
Expenses and all that.
yes, recurrent. So you buy fish, you buy feed, you grow it, you establish your cost of growing it out, and then you sell it with a markup, and you get your profit, and you do it again, you get your profit,
You grow
you
it
do
where?
it again.
You grow it where? Where do you grow it? In another person's farm?
Of
Or you
course.
establish your own farm?
You mustn't, that is the foundation I try, because the question is, the politician will jump and say, yes, we have done more. We don't do that. Now, it is reality, let us understand. It is not practicable for you in this Nigeria now to train a youth and want to make a number of them to have, at most you set up only one. And does it make sense?
Even
You
under
put
the
I
under the
think-
cooperative
I
thing that you are talking
I
about.
think the state government has, empowered lots of youth that
Now, even the,
and giving them some monies to, start up number of businesses. So sometimes the government even gives them some kind of leverage in terms of facilities, in terms of gadgets and all that. I know a number of persons who may have, benefited from that.
we're talking about fish now, isn't it? Now,
You may minister to put this in silence, please.
yeah, I thought of it. So now, you see, we're talking about fish. And I say, for fish, it is peculiar. It's capital intensive. And because it is capital intensive, we still need to empower people. We still need to get people to progress. So we brought in creativity. Everything mustn't be, you cannot just finish training and just empower only one person or two persons.
No, they
It
have
doesn't
formed
make it.
cooperatives, like you said. They say
Now,
that they
for
form
the
cooperatives.
cooperative, still require heavy investment in terms of fixed assets for fish.
But you approve them. You approve them for loans from ASBA and other agencies that has that.
Now, listen,
that's why I want to know. I mean,
You see,
let's get
when
it
you're
right.
talking about loan, you must know what you're taking loan for. If you take loan for working capital, yes, the money can come in quickly. If you take loan for fixed asset, you're going to spend 10 years. And ASBA is small business.
Okay.
That's why you have a bank of industry, bank of agriculture, different kinds of banks, So,
Okay.
And that it goes back to the economic knowledge I'm talking about.
Okay, let's put it another way, because you say that you encourage them to buy into people that already have farms.
No, not buying. We secure the pond, the fixed asset for them to operate. It is their business,
Whose
not
pond?
somebody's pond. You lease it.
And that is the now
There's a
buying into
lease.
somebody's pond. That's
No,
it. We're
leasing.
saying the same thing. We're
Leasing.
saying the same thing. We're saying the same. So how many of these ponds do we have around? Well-established ponds do we have in Anambra State?
Well, that's another question. We have several ponds, and several of them are abandoned.
That's why I'm
It's
asking, because I
massive.
know one in Abaru.
It's not only one, there are several.
And I think I've been
it's
to
not
that place
peculiar to
already.
Anambra
Are they
State.
still functioning?
It goes back to what I'm telling you. You see, people invest with the mindset of home economics without thinking of business knowledge. People do not understand that you need to be educated in business to be able to do business. You know the boy system in Igbo land? The boy system takes...
You've got to learn.
You have to learn. You spend 6, 7 years.
Emi, can
And
you
learn the
mention
ropes.
those ponds now? We want to see exactly what's going on and see if there's anything we can do to get them revitalized. Where do we have those ponds?
Every local government and almost all communities have fish ponds in Anambra State. And we have the record in our... No, private.
Okay.
Government should not construct ponds. It's private business. Now, the job, what we are doing from government now is, it is for the good of government and for security for all these ponds to be functioning.
So what are you doing?
Good. That's what I just already said. That's the regulation, that's orderliness. You have to be ordered first to know where to start. If you do not have an order or direction, so what we are, no, we are on it already. Like I mentioned, we have recorded milestones. We have records of these ponds that are not there. Now we have started from a core somewhere. We already have 150 already trained, and we have some ponds that are not being used.
And the training happened since 2003.
2023.
I mean,
Yes.
and since then, why the trainings?
They graduated 2024,
Okay.
and they formed their cooperative. And you know, cooperative, there is cooperative principles. It's called cooperative education. So, you know, again,
So why have you not had a training this year, 2025?
that's what I said. We already been given 200 to train. We've been, no. Listen, we have 200 again. We are mandated to do another 200 training. And what we're doing is now we are not disconnecting from the 150. We are linking them up. It's a chain. It's a creative way of solving our limited fund challenge. You know, the ones that have established are going to train these other ones coming in as apprentices. So these apprentices will eventually learn from this, and as they are training them, they are still being mentored.
What are they learning? They are not working. They are not in the field. They are not practicalizing what they have learned. Well, how will you teach the next person?
They are operating in farm. I told you we've negotiated with them. We're secured place for them. They're not doing it in the air. You need to understand what I'm talking about. There is 73 ponds somewhere that is not fully occupied. We had to negotiate with the owner. And then these cooperatives takes 8 ponds each. All they need to do is to repeat what they've learned. They already know how to produce fish. They only need their working capital. They are paying lease for this facility. So that volume that they are producing there, 48,000 kg per month in Anambra State, is adding to reduce our 51 million kg outstanding.
Why don't we have fish to eat?
Because you do not have to jump into what you don't understand. You have to understand. Now we are bringing people to come into the business.
That's producing that number of kg in a month.
Which one? 48,000.
Yes.
Do you know the population of Anambra State? Do you know the fish we produce, we eat every day?
It's not only them that are producing.
Okay, look at it this way.
There are people that are still doing it on private basis.
Exactly.
People still go to, we have.
I want to use this opportunity.
People go to Anambra River, they're still fishing.
Let me tell you something.
They're still fishing. And then these ones that are organized, why don't you have enough fish to eat in Anambra State?
Okay, I want to use this opportunity to clarify that it is always important to measure what you say. If you are not able to measure, you cannot improve. Yeah, so people always say there are people fishing in the Omambala, fishing in River Niger. How much fish do they have? Do they bring there? How much do they get? People are producing fish. That's why we put targets. Now, in these fish farms, like I mentioned now, these youths, each of the cooperatives, their target is 2,000 kg per month. And there are 6 of them. 2,000 times 6 gives you the volume for every month. So now, once you're able to trace where this is coming from, then you can track how many are in business, and then you can see how to add more to the production. You can see how to support the ones that have challenge, and so on. And that's all the job of coordination and regulating and guiding.
All right, thank you, Emeka. Remember, we're still looking at transforming fishery into thriving enterprise in Anambra State. We'll talk to some people on the streets. Let's hear them before we'll continue.
Because especially the youths, they believe in what they can do right now and earn something. You know, that fishery now, for me, I think it might take up to 4, 5, 6 months before you make your sales and have the money. You know, so there is need for you to educate them. It mustn't be quick, sharp things. Okay, educate them and then give them little capital to start that. Because some of our youths, I know why I'm using the word youths, because the aged one might not be able to run up the stress and some other things that are involved in that business. So I believe youths will do it better. So most of them might not have the capital to start. Of course, you need to breed. the young ones, and you need to buy the feeds for them to grow. So if they don't have the capital to start it up, so if the government can give them little capital, you know, if I am hungry and you are just preaching to me without at least seeing a loaf of bread, I might not listen, but when I see that loaf of bread, I might give you my attention. So giving them that little capital, you know, will help you to get their interest. Then educating them, I believe that will help.
I think I'm just going to say this to the youths and myself as well, that we can actually, since we're actually looking for means to survive in our country, that we can actually go into fishery, the fish farm, try to like educate people about it. And I just had to find out too that once you actually own a fish pond, that you can sell the water to people for manure instead of using normal water or irrigation for it, that you can sell that water to them for manure. And I think that's the best option too, because sometimes the fertilizers can be too much for the farm crop.
As a human, we should not just wait for job in this country, because there is no job. Yes, there is no job. So every individual, if you come out from school and you notice there is no job, you should be an employer that will employ people. And I think that's where fishery comes in. Yes, fishery is a very, very profitable business that is being underlooked by our youths. Yes, I've been into fishery, so that's why I was smiling at your question. Yes, I'm into fishery, I'm into poultry, and the rest of them. And really, I can tell you for free, there is money in it, there is capital in it. And you know, everything that has advantage also has disadvantage. And I think that's what I'm going to talk about. Yes, every individual, every youth out there should be an entrepreneur. Shouldn't really wait for government to provide for you. Shouldn't wait for them to give you a job before you get one for yourself. Now, back to fishery business. You cannot just sit down and start fishery. It is something you need to sit. It's something you need to think. It's something you need to, can I do this? What's the location? You think about your location. You think about the safety of the place. You can't just open fishery and let it be that way. If not, predators will come for the fish. They will eat the fish and you will have nothing left. So when thinking about fishery business, do I have this capital? If yes, you have the capital, what's the location? You need a pond, you need a swamp, and mostly there's a lecturer of mine that rears these fishes without even going to pond. There's a way he does it in his house. He brings this a very big bath and then encloses it just to make sure the fish is inside are safe. And then he changes the water frequently and give them food. You know, their feed is another thing that eats money. Yes, the feeding is just another thing that eats money. And then from
It is a good morning, Anambra Friday edition. And we are making frantic effort to see how we can have food on our table, especially fish, which is, I remember in those days, all our mamas, our old mamas, even our grandmothers, who always say that, you know, showing that fish was even poor man's food in those days. When you cannot afford meat, you cannot afford chicken, you rely on fish. Okay, so that's ajazu is the pieces that, you know, the broken fish. So that's what they mean by that. But these days, you don't even see the azu, of course, the ajia, you know, the pieces. That's why we are asking this question. That's why it does appear we're hard on America, because we want fish, we want to improve our diet. We really want to improve our diet, because I don't know what else to eat now. Since you can't buy meat, you can't buy fish, you can't buy anything. And then they still tell you to feed properly. You know, take what do you balanced diet. Balance. What are you buying? You want to go to buy egg. One egg is 300 naira. So how do you balance that by? What is the even the diet you are balancing? You can buy yam. 1 tuber of yam, 3,000 naira. So what are you balancing it with? It's a very horrible thing. Well, let's see how far we can go with this, as we still have Emeka Ilogalo in the house. Yes, Emeka. Remember, transforming fishery into a thriving enterprise. That is what we are talking about. Into a thriving enterprise. Go away the line, better fish, more fish for us to eat. You know, not just you get the enterprise, I mean, you get the knowledge, you go home with it. How do we translate all this to production, adequate production of fish in the States? Emeka?
Thank you. I think the
Answer is in all how you said, but I will have to refresh again. Now, how do we transform this? The way we can do this is to be able to produce with precision. Precision production, like I said, if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. I hear the finance people, usually when you talk, you recommend people for them to support them or provide funds for them for fish business. They keep saying, don't worry, people are buying fish, fish is being produced. Let me give you an information or clarification. Table fish, for example, has categories. There are buyers and users that prefer smaller fish. There are ones that prefer big fish. Around here, people like big fish that are up to 3 kg, 2 kg. There are other people that dry the fish, they prefer half kg size of fish. Now, if you are doing the business of table fish production, you have to map who you are producing for, because your budget is not the same for production if you are doing half kg and if you are doing 2 kg or 3 kg or 1 kg, as the case may be. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Now, this is part of what we've done, established in Anambra here. So what we're doing is to add more people to follow this, and after some time we will now see substantial population that are doing the same thing and heading in the same direction. The reality has been that there has been chaos hitherto across the country. So you've come to a farm and you say, I want to buy fish. He say, I have big, I have small, I have medium. Now he sells it and then he starts afresh. And the next time he's going to sell is 5 months' time or 6 months' time. But you may heard me mention monthly output. So we have an improved production system. That is what we taught these young people. We didn't teach them this general chaotic fish farming.
Which one is chaotic?
The chaotic is what I just explained. The example, typical example of chaotic fish farming that is, people are under illusion that they are doing business, is that you stock fish in a pond. There is no technical input. You are not guiding what you do. You do not even have a target of what you want to output or harvest. Now you feed the fish for a period of time, and then you harvest. You have 2 kg, you have half kg, you have 1 kg, you have 2, and then you sort them, and then sell accordingly. In the process of selling, cost of sales is being incurred. These are parts of the things that eat up the money, the profit. Now, if you produce uniform weight of size of fish, when you're selling, you know your customer. He comes and takes it. No mix-up, no activity, no modeling and waiting to haggle.
Right. Let's look at, we're talking about, but we've not really talked about some aspects, and it's a very important aspect of fish farming. The cost of the fish feeds. Now, when you talk to fish farmers, they talk about how expensive it's becoming, even those who actually farm fish at home, because some people do this just for the leisure. Sure. And all that. And you see some of them closing up. I have family friends who've closed up, who packed up and stuff. So why are there efforts to actually curb the cost of the fish feeds to actually, to actually enable and encourage fish farming? Because if fish feeds are actually expensive, we will find it difficult to encourage fish farming, because it's so important. If your fish don't eat, I do not think you can go.
Of course, you cannot produce anything, because it is the feed that grows the fish. So, in fact, the feed takes 70 to 80% of the cost of producing feed. So, it's not the days and weeks that grow the fish, it is the feed actually that they take that converts to flesh. Now, this point you raised goes back to the chaos I'm talking about. Now, the chaos is this a good example of explaining the chaos? Somebody stocks fish and then buys feed, and then when he sells the fish, he realizes that he cannot buy another feed again. Why is it so? If it is business, there must be control, there must be guidelines.
So what is meant to be done for?
There is deficit of business knowledge. That is the main reason for the feed challenge.
The point is this: some persons may not really be so interested in having this in a large scale. You were just talking about small businesses. Some persons may just be interested in just having a small fish farm in the house, whereby they can just transact for little money. It mustn't be in large scale, and if we have a number of people, probably about at least 40% of Anambra having fish farm at home, believe me, it's going to encourage job creation too, because if they have it, of course, they are going to have to employ somebody who may be monitoring the fishes and all that. But
or they do it themselves.
Or they do it themselves.
At least it saves the economy.
Yeah, it saves the economy and all that. So now the question is this: are there efforts to actually encourage cheaper fish feed?
Now, let me tell you, fish feed is about business. It's not about indulgence.
Okay.
Now, if you go to buy your clothes, your shoe, your food even, it is different from going to buy your stock that you're going to sell. If you're doing business, it means whatever you buy, you're going to eventually establish it and put markup because it is business. So if you bought fish feed 10,000 naira per bag today, and by the time you're selling your fish, the fish feed is now 15,000 naira. You must be able to consider that the next production you're going to do, you're going to buy that feed for 15,000. So it will guide you on how to put your markup to sell that fish. Do you understand?
And not just fish, in every business.
Knowledge. We don't have it in this country. That is the
We
chaos.
do. We are doing very well in businesses.
No, I'm talking
We
about
do.
fish, not everywhere. I'm not making a general
But the point
statement.
is, that's the point. Where you were just talking about people buying fish feeds now, and then when they are going to buy the next time, it actually increases. So that's the question.
They sell at old price, and when they go to buy, they begin to complain.
Are you sure? Because if I buy fish 7,000 this week and I come next week, I buy it at a different price, 8,000, 9,000, which means there's an addition, the same size of fish.
Now let me help you. I understand you. Now let me tell you. If you have an increase, it is a step. If you know the specific extent of the increase, it's a final information. So when you're dealing with information, data, you understand it, bro. You hear me talking about precision, right? It is true that fish prices are increasing.
But what Obina is asking, Emeka, what do we do to have sufficient of this fish feed and then buy it at a very low cost so that it will reflect in the price of the fish?
That's the point. Now, why do you want to buy it at a low cost? What you rather should be.
What about the production? What about, is there nothing we can do? It's just this way?
That's why I tend to rephrase what you say. Now, what you
Should be thinking about is how to have fish affordable to more people. Number one is available. Number two, affordable. So these are two key things. Now, for us to do that, we need to produce in scale. It is because of this chaos that limits the volume that comes out and affects the pricing. And it is not a straight thing. Just like I mentioned, if you are dealing with professionals, it becomes easy. When you speak, everybody understands. But there is a lot of business illiteracy in the fish production space, ecosystem. And because of that, you see people, because they have the voice, they have access, they say feed is the problem, feed is the problem. Please, we deal with data. When you look at the specifics, right?
It's actually feeding, the cost of fish feeds it's actually very much, it actually does very much affect fish farming. But that's
It's a fact, of course.
That's part of it. Let's look at the fisheries. That's the value chain production, because we're talking about probably creating jobs for young persons or people interested in creating jobs for themselves or something like that. Let's look at the value chain. What's it about it, the value chain for fishery?
Okay, so the value chain is just like I mentioned earlier. The chain of values, basically, you know, value is what you exchange for money. Money is value. So what you have, and that's what brings us to business. It has to do with business. So what you have, you can exchange for value. So now, in the fisheries and aquaculture value chain, a fish farm should be more focused and specific, precise, for business to thrive. The more ambiguous the activity in a farm is, the more losses will happen there, and the less profit that farm will have. That's our concern. So we do not stop anybody from doing any kind of fish business, but please, let it be organized. Follow each line accordingly. If you're going to produce table fish, and you want to also to produce seed fish or fingerlings, and you want also to produce broodstock, please make them separate managements. You have the capacity, fine, nobody stops you. But that's why you see drugs are regulated, things are regulated, standard organization. There is no standard. The standard is what we're trying to be. So with that standard, we can do more business.
With that standard, do you have a national body that coordinates this agency?
We are working with SOM, by the way.
Okay.
For the there is the African
for the standardization.
Yes, fisheries and aquaculture. I'm a member of the National Technical Committee. I'm also a member of African Standards Organization, fisheries and aquaculture. We've been working on the fisheries and aquaculture standards for the last 5 years. You know,
okay. All right, we won't let you go until you let us into this thing that we heard, that Anambra State has been selected as one of the 6 pilot Nigerian states for FAO-led Fish for ACP program 2022. What does that mean? Okay, Fish for ACP is a global program driven by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. It involves 12 countries, 9 countries from Africa and 3 from Caribbean and Pacific. Fish for ACP simply means Fish for Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific. It was discovered that Africa and ACP, you know, Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific, does not produce up to 10% of world fish. Does not contribute. So this program was created to you know, bring up, you know, we can now see at the global level that our challenge is not just local. It's you know, a global thing. So it was created to help fish value chains. Now, the fish value chain, the different countries selected single species of fish to work on, to establish the value chain. And Nigeria selected catfish. Other countries selected other like tilapia and carp and so on for different, for their countries. Now, this project is a national project. You know, the Nigerian part is you know, involves in, it has to be spread across the nation. So for the 6 geopolitical zones, Anambra State was selected as the pilot state. So 6 pilot states were selected from the 6 geopolitical zones, you know, and then Anambra, you know, was selected. And presently, the Fish for ACP has engaged the first set of trainees, fish producers, in Anambra State. It's ongoing as I'm talking with you. So yes, it's ongoing. The Fish for Is it a youth program too?
It's open. It's not restricted to the youth in this case, because the entire value chain is involved. The catfish value chain is, a vision has been made for the country there is a target for where we want to be by the year 2032. Yes. So FAO went around in a country, got the baseline information, and then called the stakeholders, 113 from all across the nation, on March 2022, And after that, they called again the stakeholders to do a national planning program, and that's what led to creating the strategy to implement. And the implementation is going on now all across the country, and Anambra is part of it.
Okay. I think we have given it enough bites, and we've got to go. We'd like to thank you very much for joining us, Emeka Ilogalo. And
all right, next is Catch the Bus with us, and if you're not Chuku, refuse to go anywhere, keep that